Everybody, here we are back for some Excel introductory training. Um, so I'm going to go over a few things today: anchoring formulas, um, using formulas across different sheets or tabs in a workbook, um, and we're going to see how copying formulas without anchoring causes issues. So let me see here. Let me get my notes up on the screen. We're also going to do some date functions and learn about how Excel stores dates. It's critical to understand that. And let's see, we're going to do a little bit of text math. What I mean by that is taking strings of text like first name, last name, putting them together in any order that we want. So that's kind of what's ahead of us. Let me share my screen. All right. I have another computer here in the room with me, so I'm making sure that what I'm recording is what I need recorded. So we have Excel up on the screen, and I'm going to get into cell B as in boy 3, and just going to enter some random data. So I'm going to put a 34 there, and a 34, and a 24. These are the numbers I used in class, so they should be similar if you have this same spreadsheet still in front of you, 67, 23. And then what we talked a little bit about, we were doing some review on Excel. We click and drag across these numbers, and we find that there's a little green box, little green dot at the bottom right of this selected area. It's called the fill handle. And because I just want a bunch of numbers here to play with, I'm going to let Excel fill in 3 more rows of numbers in these 3 columns. So I click on that little green box and drag it down, and Excel makes some assumptions about those first 6 numbers and the series that Excel thinks it represents, and that's how it puts these numbers in. They may not be the same as yours. It depends on how you put the numbers in. And so the idea is we just need, in this case, I've got 5 rows, 3 columns of just some random numbers that we can play with. Another thing we learned that we're just doing a little bit of review as we prep this sheet for some new learning. We can use that fill handle to actually populate some series correctly. Excel will make the proper assumptions if we start a known series. Like in this case, I type Jan and Feb in row 2. If I highlight those 2 cells and then click that little fill handle and drag it to the right, Excel will make the correct assumption that I'm trying to input a series of months. And so it automatically filled in for me March through December. Pretty cool, pretty handy. Another thing we've done in these intro classes is we've put in a formula for the sum. And in day 3 of this class, I talked about another way you can enter formulas, and that is by going up to the menu bar in Excel. Okay, so I'm under January on the total row of 9. I made that my total row, so I'm in cell B9. And I go up to the menu bar and I click on formulas. And there's all kind of categories of formulas listed on the ribbon here for formulas. And I want to focus on the one that says auto sum. There's a little arrow below the words auto sum. We're going to click on that because it gives us a menu of functions we can have Excel input for us. sum, average, count, max, min, and even more. So one way to enter a function, a formula, is right off this formulas ribbon. So I'm going to click on the word sum, and Excel correctly assumes that if I want a sum in cell B9, I must want the range above B9 to be summed. So it's already put the range in for me. It typed the function with both parentheses, did it all. So all I have to do is hit enter, and now I've got the sum of January's numbers in cell B9. It says 60. If you'll remember, one of the ways we can double check that, make sure the formula is doing what we think it's doing, is select that range of numbers in January, and then look down at the status bar, where the status bar gives us the average is 12, the count is 5, the minimum is -10, my max is 34. Lo and behold, the sum, according to the status bar, is 60. So my formula is correct. I've double checked it using Excel's status bar. So I want this formula across all 12 months. Easy to do. We can grab that fill handle, click on it, and drag that formula across through December. And lo and behold, the January sum formula has been copied through all 12 months. So we've got ourselves a little data table here. And so I'm going to label this, instead of sheet 1, what I want to do here is I want to create a what if analysis. So let's say this this could be a series of water wells, maybe producing barrels of water. I might even put that in there, water wells. Water well number 1. And using the fill handle, I can drag that down. And so I've got 5 water wells with production. And I want to do some what if analysis. And that's where Excel is I mean, it's incredibly powerful in doing what if analysis. And what I mean by what if analysis is, what if I were to increase the production of all these numbers, all these wells by 15%? What would the numbers look like then? Okay. So the way we are going to do that, there's several ways to do things in Excel, but the way we're going to do that today is I'm going to make a copy of this data table, and I'm going to copy these cells and put that copy on another tab. So I keep my original data. So the real original numbers I'm going to keep on a different tab, and then I'm going to use this tab, this worksheet, to do some what if analysis. So the way we did that is I clicked in the top left portion of this data table and selected the entire data table by clicking and dragging across it. And then I'm going to use the key combination Control-C, which is the shortcut for copy. You'll notice that around this selection in my spreadsheet right now, there's a bunch of dashed lines circling around the area. And that means I have done some action on these cells. When I hit Control-C, I set them up to be copied. And now Excel's saying, okay, you want me to copy this? Where do you want me to copy it to? So I'm going to put it on a new tab. So down at the bottom of our Excel window, next to the tab that says Sheet 1, is a plus sign. I'm going to click on that plus and add a new tab. And I'm going to zoom in so all of you can see exactly where I'm at here. So the start of my real data was cell A2. That's where I started the selection of that table over on sheet 1. So I'm going to get in A2, and I'm going to hit Control on my keyboard and hold that down and then press the V key, V as in Victor, and bam, there's my real data that I have just now copied from that first sheet. So now I've got a copy, I've got the real data on one sheet, and then I'm going to use the other sheet to do some what if analysis. What if production dropped by 10%? What if we were able to increase water production by 20%? I'm going to do that analysis. But I don't like the names sheet 1 and sheet 2. I want to make those a little more explanatory, which is which. So I'm going to call sheet 2, double click on the tab name down at the bottom of this window. I'm going to call sheet 2 the real data sheet or tab. Okay, so now that's real data, and I'm going to rename sheet 1. I'm going to call it what if. Okay. Excel still has the lines rolling around that area I selected, because if I wanted to paste it 10 more times, I could on other sheets. So Excel's still in this mode of, hey, you selected to copy this. Do you want to paste it any more times? So I can stop that by just hitting the escape key, and we're good to go. All right, so I'm going to come up here to cell B1, and I'm going to say, what if in cell B1? All right, so cell C1 is where I'm going to type in a percentage of increase or decrease that I want applied to our real data numbers. So this is going to be my what if scenario tab. And before we do that, if I'm going to input a percentage, I need to format that cell I'm going to input the percentage into. I need to format it as a percentage. So I'm in cell C1. I'm going to go back onto the menu bar, back to the Home tab on the menu bar. And if you remember from earlier classes, when you click on Home, the ribbon changes. And in the middle of the ribbon is this formatting area with some quick keys that can set formats for us. And one of the keys you'll notice is %. So if we're in the cell we want, I'm in cell C1. If I click on %, I will set the format of cell C1 to a percentage. So I'm going to click on that. All right. And I have done it. Nothing really happened down here in the cell. That's cool. But I've set it as a percentage. So for instance, let's say we want to analyze these water wells production and see what would happen if their production went up by 10% or 15%. Let's type in 15. When I type into cell C1, it automatically looks at that 15 as a percent because I formatted it as a percent before I went in there. Okay. Now, how do we increase all these numbers by whatever percentage we put into C1? Well, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to replace these real numbers with formulas. I know I can do that because I've got a copy of the real data over on the real data tab. So I'm not going to lose any numbers. I'm going to put formulas in here, but I need to get rid of this data. So I'm just going to click and drag across this data and hit delete on my keyboard. Okay, so all the data is gone, and I'm ready to put into these cells a formula that will take the percentage entered in cell C1 and apply that to the real data and increase that real data by that percentage. So Let's try that. I'm going to start a formula in cell B3. So I'm going to start the formula with the equal sign. Remember, you can start it with other characters. I just recommend you always start it with equals. And I'm going to say, I'm going to create a formula that takes the value in cell C1 and multiplies it by the real data. So I'm in January, water well number 1. I want to take this 15% number, so I click on cell C1, and C1 is automatically put into the formula that we're building. And I want to multiply that cell. So for Excel's use, the asterisk is the multiply sign. So I'm going to click on an asterisk. That goes into the formula. So right now we've got C1 times. Now, I want to multiply this by the real data number for well 1 in January. So where is that at? It's over on the real data tab. So I'm going to click on the real data tab, point my mouse cursor at the January value for well number 1, which is in cell B3, and I'm going to click on B3. Excel has not stopped building the formula. So if you look up here in the formula bar, that formula is still being built. It's equals C1, that's our factor, times this cell B3 on the real data tab. Okay, so that's what we want. Keep in mind that the number in cell B3, the real data number, is 34. Just kind of keep 34 in the back of your mind, because we're going to want to do some adjustments over on the what if tab, and it'll help to remember what the real data number was. So that formula up in the formula bar is accurate. That's what I want. I'm going to hit enter, and we are taken back to the what if tab. The formula is calculated, and we now have a calculation result for January well number 1. Now the amount is 5.1. So 15% of that value in the real data tab, which was, if you remember, 34, 15% of 34 is in fact 5.1. That's not exactly what I want. That's just 15% of that value. I want 15% added to that value. Now, a lot of ways we could do this. We could just come up here to the C1 where we type in our percent. We could make it 115%. That would be something we could do. Hit enter, and lo and behold, that's the number we're looking for. 34 increased by 15%. I just don't like that big number, 115%. So I'm going to put it back to 15. So listen to what I said I want. I want 15% of this well's January water production added to the real production number for well 1 in January. So what I have right now is the 15% number. I just need to add it to the value for well 1 in January. So I just need to edit this formula to add the real data number. I can edit the formula by moving my mouse up into the formula bar and clicking anywhere to the right of my formula. And I'm going to add, so I'm going to hit the plus sign. I want to add that same value from the real data tab. So I'm going to go over to the real data tab. Well number 1 in January, I'm going to click that 34 again. That's all I needed to do. I'm going to hit enter, and there we are. So I've got 15% times the real value plus the real value. And some of you might be thinking, well, all you really needed to do is multiply by 1.15. Well, We could do that too. In Excel, there are a zillion ways to do the same thing. So now we've got the formula correct. We just need to copy that formula across this entire what if sheet, and we'll be fine. We'll have this what if scenario done, but something really weird happens when we copy this formula. So I've got the formula in cell B3. My little dot at the bottom right is there, so I'm going to grab the fill handle and drag it down across January. And lo and behold, I've got an error here. What happened? Well, if I look up at the formula for this cell, so I've clicked and selected cell B4. I go up and look at this formula, and the formula is using cell C2 for the adjustment factor. Now, why is Excel doing that? Well, whenever Excel copies formulas around a spreadsheet, it also adjusts the cell and row references accordingly. For example, when we took this formula that referred to cell B3 to B8 and we copied it across, Excel automatically changed those formula references to the column where that sum would be applied. So the formula in cell B9, which referred to the range B3 to B8, when we copied it over to April in column E, Excel automatically changed the cell range references to E. So Excel will change cell references as we copy formulas around the spreadsheet. In this case, there's only one cell that contains the percent what if value that we're working with. So we want to tell Excel, hey, as you copy these formulas around the spreadsheet, do not change the reference to cell C1. That needs to stay as C1 no matter where I copy any formulas to. So how do we do that? We use a special character to Excel special, and that's the $sign. It's an anchor character. So let's go back down to this formula where we started, our original formula in cell B3. And what we want to do now is change this formula so that C1, as we copy it around this data table, stays C1. It stays on the cell that we use to do some what if analysis, up, down, -10, +20, whatever percent. So in that first formula, cell B3, we're going to add some anchors. So if I put my cursor, my mouse pointer, right between the equals and the C, I'm going to type a $sign there. And what that tells Excel is, if this formula is copied anywhere, anchor column C, the reference to column C. Do not change that column C wherever this formula is copied to. We're going to do the same thing for the row. So I'm going to move my cursor between the C and the 1, and I'm going to type another $sign, and that tells Excel, hey, wherever wherever this formula is copied, don't change the 1. So column C, row 1, anchor that. Always, wherever this formula is copied to, always refer to cell C1 for our what if number. Okay, and that's all we're going to do here. We're going to change C1 so that it is anchored. The column and the row is anchored by typing in a $sign before the column, C in this case, and a $sign before the row, 1 in this case. All right, so I'm going to hit enter. I still have the same value here. We know 39.1 is accurate, but we've anchored C1. So as I copy this formula in B3 now down through the range of January values, that C1 will not be changed. Let's see what happens. Sure enough, we got rid of all those errors. So if we look, like say the formula for water well 5 in January, if we look at the formula for that up here in the formula bar, you can see it's still referring to C1 for our percent number that we enter. Okay, so this looks good. January's got all these numbers correct. We just need to copy all of those formulas across. So we're going to use the fill handle. We selected the range of numbers in January, and we're using the fill handle to copy those formulas across through December. So now I've got a great what if spreadsheet. Anytime I change the number in cell C1, maybe I want to understand what would happen if we decreased this production by 5%. So I'm going to put in a minus 5%. When I hit enter, all these values change. Bam. So now I know what happens to all these values in an instant if they're all dropped by 5%. And if I go now to the real data tab, it's April, and I'm going to put in the real data for April. I put in 55 and 66 and 77 and 88 and 99. When I go back to my what if tab, I've already built all the formulas. I should see April numbers now on the what if tab. And sure enough, here are April's numbers, which represent the real number less 5%. Now remember, formatting, these numbers they all look different because some have 2 decimals, some have 1 decimal. Remember, we can change formatting. I'm going to change the formatting on all these numbers just to give me 1 decimal place. So I'm going to select all those cells and I'm going to decrease the decimal. Okay, now they're all gone. So I'm going to increase it by 1. So now all my numbers have just 1 decimal place and they all line up. They look consistent. So just personal preference there. I formatted all the numbers to 1 decimal place. Okay, so that's anchoring cells in a formula. You'll need it a lot. Anytime you have a value that you want applied against a range of cells, probably, most likely, you're going to need to apply anchors as you copy formulas around your spreadsheet. So let's start a new sheet. We're going to move on to doing some date math. I'm going to start a brand new sheet so that we can do something new here. I'll zoom in so everyone can see what I'm doing. And I'm gonna name this sheet dates. Okay. By the way, you can move these tabs around down here. You know, the what if goes with the real data. If I want to keep those together, I can click on the real data tab, click and hold it, and then drag it over next to the what if, and those two will now be together in the tabs. So dates is now on the end. It's a new thing we're going to work with here. So in the B column, I want to type a label for what I'm going to be doing. You'll see why here in a second, because the label will tell us what formula we're using in column C. We won't see that readily. Labels, if you want to make sure Excel treats a cell as a label, labels start with an apostrophe. So I want to make sure Excel looks at what I put and type into column B as labels. So I'm going to start these cells with an apostrophe. So I'm going to say, in fact, I'm going to even say this column is a bunch of labels in B2. In B3, I'm going to type I'm going to make it a label. It's not a formula. It's not a function with that apostrophe in front of it. I'm going to talk about the Excel function, which is called now. Okay, so over here are the actual functions. So in cell C3, let's start a formula for a function. We're going to start that with an equals, and we're going to use this function called now. So I'm going to start typing in O, and sure enough, I can click down that list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 6 values down the list. Oh, that's not, about 7 values down the list, I guess, is the word now. So I'm going to select that, and it tells me this will return the current date and time formatted as a date and time. That's what I want. So I'm going to use the tab key for Excel to enter that formula. I'm going to close the parenthesis of the function. I mentioned to you, I could hit enter right now and Excel would know what to do. I just like manually typing in the last part of formulas so I know exactly what I'm doing there. I don't trust Excel's assumptions sometimes with parentheses. So I'm going to close that parenthesis and hit enter. And sure enough, it shows the date as September 30th and the time as 10:09. Now, interestingly, you can't see it here, but that date, that time is actually in 24-hour format. I don't want it in 24-hour format, so we're going to talk a little bit about changing the format of this date. I also don't need the whole full 2020. I could be fine with just 9/30/20. So I can save some space, and I want it in 12-hour format, so I get the AM PM. When I'm looking back at this, I'd like to see it that way. So let's format this cell that way. I've selected the date cell, the cell in C3. So my selector border is around it. And I'm on the Home tab of the menu bar. So out on this ribbon, we have our formatting area. Nothing really here in a quick button for date. So I'm going to click the drop-down arrow next to the word custom, and I get all kind of preset date and time formats to choose from. So like, for instance, there's the short date. I could choose that. Doesn't have the time though, so I don't like that. The long date, again, no time. Here's time, and it's with the AM PM designator, but no date. So none of these quick selections are going to work for me. So I'm going to go to the way bottom of this menu and select more number formats. Okay. So I want to make this a date, a specific date format. So over here in the category portion of this format cells box is a category for dates. And now over here in the right part of this box, there are several preset types of date formats that I can select from. So I'm going to scroll down through that and see if some of these preset date formats are what I'm looking for. Oh, here we go. So this one right here shows me month, day, year with the 2-digit year. It shows the time in 12-hour format with the AM or PM. That's the one I'm looking for. So I'll click on it. And what happens is up here in the sample section of this format window, it shows me what my cell will look like if I apply this format to it. And that's exactly what I want, 9:30:20, 10:09 a.m. Okay, so that's how to format cells with far better precision. I'm going to click on OK, and there's my date and time. Okay, so let's introduce you to another date function. And that function, remember, I'm going to start in my labels. I'm going to talk about the function today. So we're going to enter the function today as a formula. So we start in cell C4 with the equals sign. And I start typing the word today, and I only get to the O. And it's the only selection in the resultant list given to me by Excel. So what does it say it does? It returns the current date formatted as a date. Good, that's what I want. I'm going to hit the Tab key on my keyboard. It capitalizes the word today. And I want to close that function with a right paren, and I'll hit enter. So sure enough, there's today's date. You notice the difference between the two, between now and today, is today does not include time. All right, now does. Now includes the time, whereas date does not. So how does Excel store these date values? It's really critical to understand this, and we'll see why here in just a minute. Let's go over a couple columns. I'm going to go to column E, and all I want to do is enter a formula that copies the value from C3, just a duplicate of the value. So the way to do that, in cell E3, I'm just going to say equals the value in cell C3. I'm going to click on C3. So all my formula is in the cell E3 is equals C3. When I hit enter, bam, there it is. It's the exact same thing. I'm going to copy that down so that the same formula applies to 9:30:20. You'll notice, though, the time is messed up. There's no time in cell C4. So over here, Excel has made the assumption that I want it formatted with time in it, and I don't. So I'm going to come up here to my formatting menu, and I'm going to just select short date so that all I see is the date. Okay, so sometimes Excel will make assumptions that are incorrect for what you want. Be aware, Excel's always trying to help, always trying to assume, maybe save you some steps. Those assumptions aren't always correct. So here we are. We've got two cells here that are basically duplicates of the data we see in cell C3 and C4. But let's try something. Let's select the cells in E3 and E4 And let's format those as numbers with the comma separator. Remember how we do that? We can just go up here onto the home ribbon and click on the quick formatting button, comma style. So there's a little comma there we can click on. Wow, what is this number? 44,104. And in the today function, 44,104 and no value behind the decimal. Okay, so let's look at these numbers a little closer and try to figure out what they represent. So I'm going to increase the decimals of these numbers by clicking on the quick button for increasing decimals up on the ribbon. And let's look. Wow, that first value for now has 7 decimal places. What precision that number has. But the today number, no decimal numbers at all. So I'm going to keep hitting this increased decimal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, it looks like Excel will take this number out 10 decimal places. That's its precision. So I'm going to decrease this back across those zeros. So let's think about this a little bit. This number is a reflection of how Excel stores date and time. So what in the world is 44,104? That is the number of days since January 1st, 1900, including January 1st. That's how Excel stores numbers. So for example, if I just type the date down here, let's say March 4th, 1949. So I put a date in there, and I'm going to copy this formula because I want the format to be copied down with me. I want all those decimal places, so I'm going to copy rather than just type it in. Come down here and paste it. What this is telling me is that March 4th, 1949 is exactly 17,961 days from January 1st, 1900, including January 1st. That's how Excel stores dates. Every day, every calendar day is an integer. It's a number that represents how many days since January 1st, 1900, including January 1st. So what are the decimal places? Well, the decimals are the fraction of days, hours, minutes, and seconds. That's how Excel stores hours, minutes, and seconds as a fraction of the day. Okay, so for example, I don't have any time. I didn't type a time into this date, so no decimals there. If there's no decimals, the day hasn't actually started. It's 12 a.m., 12 midnight, exactly. Okay, if we type in, say, 1/1/1900, there it is. That's day 1. Okay, so that's how Excel stores numbers. Now this is important, okay, because when Excel does date math, in other words, it's trying to calculate averages per day or or how many days until something is going to happen, or how many days since something happened, those decimals can make a difference. So for example, I'm going to type in the date September 1st here, 9/1/2020. Okay, so if I wanted to know days since September 1st, well, that's easy math. So all I would do in a formula here is I would start my formula and say equals today's date minus September 1st date. Sure enough, 29 days since September 1st. Makes sense. Today's the day I'm doing this is September 30th. So September 1st plus 29, September 30th. Makes sense, right? But watch what happens if I do that same formula applied against the now date. Okay, so I'm going to say equals now minus September 1st. Now minus September 1st is 29.4 days, because we've started into September 30th now. Some of September 30th is already gone. In fact, 4.43 days, 43 hundredths, 4/10 of September 30th is gone. So we've actually come 29.4 days from September 30th. Now think about that. After noon, when that number becomes 29.55 or 29.7, Excel will round that number up and would reflect it as 30 maybe in your formulas and how you have cells formatted, when in fact maybe the 29 is what we're looking for. So depending on how you calculate the dates and what time of day it is, and whether you're rounding or not, you could actually have days since September 1st be 30, or you could have it be 29. What you tell Excel to calculate is what Excel's going to do, and one value off, one day off, could make a huge difference in averages and sums and totals and reports and graphs. So be very careful that you're using the correct date functions for any date math. Understand how Excel stores dates and think about how those numbers, integers and decimal places, will be used in formulas, and that'll keep you accurate. You might even come at, well, I always tell you, I told you before, you always come at it different angles. So calculate different ways, come at a problem from different angles, make sure you come up with the same solution as a way of double checking. Okay, so I'm gonna introduce you to one other date function, and then we'll move on to some text functions. And the reason I want to do this is on my computer right now, my watch, today is Wednesday. All right, so today is Wednesday. What day of the week is Wednesday to you? Some people might answer that day 3 because they start counting with Monday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Some people may say Wednesday is day 4. They start with Sunday's date. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They would maybe say day 4. Excel allows for those different perspectives if we need to use a number for what weekday we are currently on. All right, so the label we're going to create is weekday. Let's see, let me put that in all caps. And we're going to start this formula as usual in our C column with the equal sign, and we're going to start typing weekday, W. All I needed to do is type W, and the list is very limited. So I'm going to click on weekday, and Excel tells us this function returns a number from 1 to 7, identifying the day of the week of a date. Okay, so there's one thing for sure we need to apply this function against a certain date. We're going to use today for that. So let's select weekday. We clicked on the function weekday in this list. I'm going to hit the tab key. We don't just close with close paren. We got to tell Excel what date we're interested in for finding out what day of the week that date is. So down here below the cell that I'm entering this formula in is a little cheat for us to tell us what Excel needs to finish this function. So it says weekday, and then the first thing we need is a serial number. Now, you and I know now that Excel stores dates as serial numbers, as integers with decimals, dates and times. So what this function is actually asking us for, though it doesn't say it as clearly, it's saying, what date do you want us to use in this formula? So we're going to go up and we're going to select today's date. So I'm going to go up to cell C4 and left click on that cell. So that cell is now put into my function, cell C4. You'll notice there's something else I can add to this weekday function, and it's called return type. That's where we're going to be able to tell Excel what day do we start counting with to find out what weekday number we're in. So to get there, this little cheat thing tells us right after the serial number or date, we need to put a comma. So I'm going to type a comma. And Excel now gives us a list of return types, what Excel will return to us, the type of number, day of the week, date it's going to return to us. So the first selection that we could choose in this list is if you start counting your weeks with Sunday. So 1 is Sunday through 7 is Saturday. Select that one. Select that return type. The next one in this list is if you start counting the week with Monday, so Monday is 1 through Sunday is 7, well then select that item, that return type in the list. So let's do that. Let's select Monday is 1. So if I start counting Monday as 1, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Wednesday should be number 3 if this function returns what we think it should. So I've selected that return type where Monday is 1, Sunday is 7. I'm going to hit the tab key to put it into the formula. So I've entered that okay. I'm going to close the function with a parenthesis, and there's my function. I'm telling Excel, hey, what weekday, what numeric day of the week is the day in cell C4? And by the way, I count with Monday as the start, Monday as 1. So our formula is complete. I'm going to hit enter, and sure enough, if you use Monday as the start day, the weekday for today, 9:30, is 3. It's the 3rd day of the week. We could put in that same formula for any date. We could put it in for this September 1st and find out what day of the week that is. Just about anything you can imagine doing with dates, there are Excel functions for it. For example, 5 years and 3 months from now, so 1 quarter beyond 5 years from now, I want to know what the last day of the prior month was. You can build that formula pretty easily in Excel. I mean, anything you can imagine date-wise, you can build a formula for. So I just wanted to show you that Excel allows for adjusting how you count day of the week and how Excel does math, how it stores dates. All right, lots of functions to play with dates. Let's do one other thing before we close out this class. Let's start a new tab. I'm going to click on the New Sheet Plus button at the bottom of my spreadsheet. Excel calls it Sheet 4. I'm going to call it Text Math, because I'm going to teach you how to actually apply, say addition, adding two words together, how that would work. I'll zoom in on this spreadsheet so you can see what we're doing. So I'm gonna create a couple columns. One will be column for first name and another column for last name. And then I'm going to say full name, and then I'm going to say full name, last name first. That doesn't make much sense. Let me retype that. Let's say last name, comma, first name is what I'm going to have in column E. Okay? So I'm going to kind of grow, I'm going to expand these columns a little bit. And I'm going to put my name in these cells, so Joel Hoffman. So there's many different reasons why you may enter a name as separate, first name, last name, and many reasons why you might want to combine them. So I might want Joel Hoffman together for a mailing label. Or my boss just likes to have lists with last name first. So he likes seeing things Hoffman, comma, Joel. We can have Excel do all that for us, create those lists automatically, however we enter. We can enter them anyway. In Excel, we can create formulas that make whatever list in whatever format we want. So we need to just know how Excel can work with text. So in the full name column in D, there's a long word in the English language that describes what we want to do. We want to concatenate the first name and the last name. And concatenate just means put them together. There's actually a function in Excel called concatenate, and it's spelled out. They don't even have a short form of the function. So it's the full, you would say equals concatenate. So there's a special character though, a concatenate character, and that's the ampersand key, which on the keyboard is above the number 7. So we're going to start a formula in cell D4. Always start with an equals, in my opinion. That's the way to go. Equals. I want to take the first name, so I'm going to click on B4, and I want to concatenate that with what's in C4. So I use the concatenation character, the ampersand, and then point at C4, and I have my formula. Equals B4 plus or concatenated with C4. I'm going to hit enter. Well, that's exactly what I wanted, but I would like a space in there. And what a space is it's just another character that we can concatenate with other words and characters. So we're going to go in and modify this formula to include a space in the formula. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to go to the formula bar, and just to the right of the ampersand, I can do it down here, just to the right of the ampersand, I'm going to put a double quote, a space, and a double quote. That's Excel's way of identifying a text character enclosed by double quotes. And I want to add that space not only at the end of first name, which is found in B4, I want to add it in front of C4, the last name. So I have to have another concatenate character, the ampersand sign, before C4. So there's my formula now. And it says take the value in B4, add a space to it, and then add the last name, the value in C4 to that. So let's look at how that works. Sure enough, that looks a lot better. Put my name together with a space between. All right, so let's build a formula now that will do last name, followed by a comma and a space, then first name. Okay, so I'm going to go to cell E4, and I'm going to create a formula. So I start with equals. I'm going to point at last name, use the ampersand to concatenate that with other text, other characters. I'm going to use double quotes. This time, what I want between last name and first name is a comma and a space, double quote, ampersand, and finally, the value in B4, which is first name. So there's my formula now for last name, comma, space, first name. I can hit enter. And sure enough, that's what I have. I'm going to copy these formulas down a couple rows just so we can see something happen here. There's nothing in first name, last name, so the formula shows just the comma. All right, so I'm going to add some names. John Alexander. Oops. I'm going to put in Mary Smith, and I'll put in hot dog. Okay. So you'll notice all these formulas worked perfectly. They put last name, comma, first name, or first name, last name with a space in the middle. One thing we may want to do is sort this list, and that'll be the last thing we do in this class. If I just highlight this data table and I say I want to sort the list, Excel's going to make some assumptions, and they may not be right. How does Excel know what I want to sort by? Do I want to sort by first name? Do I want to sort by last name? If I just come to the data ribbon, so I'm going to click on the data tab up on the menu bar, and I click on sort A to Z in the middle of that ribbon. If I just click A to Z, oh wow, it's sorted by first name but not by last name. That's not what I want. So you see that Excel made the assumption that I wanted to sort by whatever I had in the first column, and that's not correct. So I'm going to hit the undo button. I don't want it that way, so I'm going to hit undo. And what I instead am going to use on the Data tab ribbon, I'm going to click on this sort button, and it's actually going to give me far more options to use. Okay, so it brings up this sort window. First thing I want to do over here on the right is let Excel know, hey, this data table that I have selected has headers. First name, full name, last name, comma, first name. Those are headers. Don't include those in the sort. All right, so I'm going to click that box, and you'll see that all of a sudden those are not part of the data that will be sorted. I can also now tell Excel which column do I want to sort by. Well, I want to sort last name first. I could use the C column, or I could use the E column. E's probably better because if there are two Joel Hoffmans, or two Hoffmans, I mean, it will then sort by first name. So I'm going to sort by column E, which is the last name, comma, first name column. I can select that right off the list. And I want to sort on the cell values. I want to sort from A to Z, so ascending order. I could sort Z to A if I wanted to. This all looks good. I've checked that my data has headers. I want it sorted the way I've laid it out. I say okay. Now everything's great. It's not sorted by first name. It's sorted by the values in column E, which is last name, comma, first name. And that's sorting using the sort button on the data ribbon. Okay. So that's the end of this video for several of the functions, date functions, text functions, and the anchor characters, the concatenate characters. Watch this video again, stop it, slow it down, rewind it, practice, 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 and you'll be well on your way to becoming an Excel expert. So thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day.